Hello, and welcome to Bladed Game Chats. My name is Alex, and I'm here with my co-host, Winter.
Hello, everybody.
We're here to offer an honest and thorough discussion of personal experiences playing video games firsthand. This podcast creates a space to appreciate games and converse about their contribution to the gaming industry, culture, and our personal lives. So if you are wondering what a video game is about, or wanting a full deep dive conversation, this show helps you make decisions as we review video games and share stories from our gaming adventures. Today, we point our blade to Diablo 4 Beta. Diablo 4 is developed by Blizzard Entertainment, and the consoles that this game is available to play on are Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam.
Running.
Are you out of your mind? He's not going to make it.
He has to.
Blessed Akarat, thy eternal light protects me. Thy divine force guides.
Look at me! All the gold we want is right there.
No, I just came here for knowledge.
They're coming!
I know.
Get over here!
Now, breach the seal.
By three they come. By three thy way opens. Blood shows. This doesn't make any sense. Blood. Blood is the key. Blood is the key!
What?
I need two of you!
No! Go! I'll hold them! Go! You gotta be kidding me!
Diablo 4 is an upcoming action role-playing game and is the fourth main installment in the Diablo series. The game was announced at BlizzCon in 2019, and public betas were released in March of 2023. This series features replayable, procedurally generated dungeons and loot-focused character building. Players create their character from one of 5 playable classes: Barbarian, Sorcerer, Druid, Rogue, and Necromancer. The core formula for this game revolves around obtaining stronger equipment by defeating increasingly harder enemies. Each class has their own skill tree of talents that can be customized with equipment. So, hopping right into the world build segment, where we focus on the story and the world and the narrative. So, Winter, what was it like for us and that experience of, like, waiting in the queue and, like, seeing those first initial cutscenes of what the story was going to be about?
Oh, yeah. I think Diablo is one of those games where, like, when you're watching the cutscenes, you just put the controller down and you're like, all right, time to watch a movie now.
Exactly.
And it's so good. It's like its own little short story that just gives you the overarching, here's what's happening. Here's why everything's gonna go to shit.
Exactly.
And now here you are.
It's establishing that main villain, but also giving you a reason as a player to, like, play the game, but play it for the story. And I think starting the game with that initial cutscene of knowing who Lilith is and her reign, just the other supporting characters and the overarching, like, here is what happened. Here is where you are now, and this is how it's tying together. I remember when the beta was released, you and I opened the beta for the first time and realized that it was like a 50-minute wait queue. And we sat there like, you know what, we're going to sit this through because we really want to play this game.
Oh, yep.
And it turned out that it was half the time of wait because people ultimately just gave up waiting in the queue, so it bumped us further.
It was like we had a 45-minute estimated wait time. We got through that 45 minutes in like 20.
I think we ended up spending like another 20 on character creation, even before we even hopped into the first cutscene the first initial playing segment.
Character creation is, of course, so important. Diablo is your very like dark fantasy introductory game to someone who grew up playing like first person shooters or like family casual fun games. going from there into any sort of interest in like dark fantasy and Souls type games, Diablo was just like a really good transitionary thing.
I see what you're trying to do with relating the two, but I think it does have its own category away from Dark Souls and those types of games, because those are more like third-person, open-world exploration and
Right.
boss fights, which all of those things are in Diablo. But I feel like there's just a different style.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, speaking of their style, they completely revamped their style. Like Diablo 4 looks nothing like well, not nothing like, of course, but like doesn't look like Diablo 3.
And I feel like that's good though, because
yeah, it is a good
it's
thing.
an upgrade from what I've been seeing.
Yeah.
With our history with Diablo, we don't have that much. We've played maybe
No.
like 30% of Diablo 3, but we loved it enough to know about it and wanting to try the fourth game since it's the newest. And since the beta was free.
Yeah. I feel like Diablo does a good job throwing you into the story enough that you're satisfied by not necessarily having the full picture.
Exactly. You can play the game without knowing any previous history of the other games. Just
Right.
because I think they are so detached from each other, but they also are connected in ways that long-term fans can understand.
Yeah, like that freaking angel from the cutscene with the hood, you can't see his
Right.
face.
That's
Like,
probably
it's a
something.
whole-
There's so much lore that we don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
This goes right over our head. But I feel that with the basics of what we know, and we can definitely see stylistic improvement, but also game playability and mechanics has took its next level.
Right, right.
So talking about like some of the new mechanics that we've been introduced to, like multiplayer online in a sort of like Elder Scrolls Online vibe where you can see other players that are playing on the same
Oh,
server
yeah.
as you, which I don't
Right.
remember that ever being a thing with at least Diablo 3, but just being able to like walk into like an area or a zone where that has the ability to happen where you can run into another player other than the people in your
Right.
own party. But being able to like hop right into public events and having somebody come in and save the day is really cool.
Yup.
But also,
Yeah.
it still has that same feeling with combat, because I remember you mentioned while we were playing together that, oh, this is what I missed about playing Diablo, just because being so powerful and gaining that
Yeah.
level of skill within your character to be
Yeah.
able to just run into a horde of enemies, wipe them all out in like 10 seconds of just spamming. But like the feeling is satisfying.
Because all of your control of your character is all just in the abilities that you unlock in the skill tree. Everything else is just you move and you have health. And so you're really like picking and choosing your loadouts to like
Make it more personable.
right, make it more personable, make it cool, chain things together, and then you just walk into an enemy or a massive group of enemies and you just start button mashing in a pattern that you have put out for yourself, and
Exactly.
everything
Yeah.
explodes in a massive, gory, bloody, explosive mess, and you get gold and you get more loot, and it's so good.
Especially when you're playing with your friends, just because of the different classes you can mesh together and the combos you
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah.
The fact that you were playing a druid and I was playing a necromancer, both of those classes were the first time for us playing.
Yep.
So it was new, it was fun, but also the fact that I could summon skeletons and you could turn into a bear was like the coolest thing ever.
Uh-huh.
Because you would just go head first into everything, and I would stay back using like my sword skill that does like suck like effects to everyone, sucks the life out of everyone, is what I was trying to say.
This does the suck.
It does suck powers. But like I can also summon skeletons to fight for me, which is something
Yeah.
I've been really liking as like summoning and stuff. It's from like previous episodes like Terraria, of like that's sort of a thing that I'm trying to experience
Right.
more in games.
And like specifically with the druid, they let you like as we were going through the skill tree and unlocking things, it was obvious that like you can make a build with the druid that is long range too, and actually can take less hits, because when I turn into a bear, like I like resistance, and so I could have like gotten the more elemental stuff where I throw a massive boulder over my head, or I summon a tornado that flies around, or shoot lightning from the sky.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something to mention just because of the versatility of the
Yeah.
skills and powers you have. Not only are they like specific for whatever class you're playing, but you can still have that customization to make your necromancer or druid specific to how you like to play the game. So they added on all of these options because I guess people felt restricted even just basic classes.
Oh yeah, I remember when we were playing Diablo 3, like being a rogue was like always felt the same.
Exactly. Like that, it gives you those options to make your rogue or whatever class you want to play feel different depending on what choices you make in your skill tree and build your own character.
Yeah.
Come.
Blessed Akarat, thy eternal light protects me, thy divine wisdom guides me. Though my
Open your eyes.
eternal light protects me, eternal light protects me, eternal light protects me, eternal light protects me, eternal
There
light.
is no light here. You came to the darkness for knowledge.
Yes.
And all the knowledge you seek is here. Surrender. Speak the words. Call her home.
By 3, they come. By 3, thy way opens. By the blood of the willing, we call thee home.
I think I wanted to talk more about like the camera differences, which were interesting to me. Like Diablo 3 was like literally top down, and Diablo 4 is doing this weird mix between like fully third person where it follows you. It's back and almost fixed, but not quite fixed.
Right, you have that bird's eye view, but they're using the camera angle at specific points in story narrative to change where you're looking in order to emphasize something. For example, I remember in my playthrough, when I was just playing by myself, I ended up going so far into the narrative where I approached like a giant monastery. And when you stand in a specific location, it takes that bird's eye view camera, moves it down to your level so you're looking up at the castle. And I feel like that was a perfect way to utilize that to support story and narrative. Because you're like, holy shit, this is a giant place and it's bigger than me. I wouldn't have been able to see that if I was always in a bird's eye view angle.
So I really like the flexibility that they gave the camera, because it really lets them tell a story.
Hail, daughter of hatred. Creator. Hail. Lilith.
So let's talk about the meaning. So what does this game mean to you, mean to us? Or what does it mean to the culture of gaming? Are there any monumental foundational discoveries, or does this sort of redefine the genre? What are your thoughts?
I think that it is, at least this is certainly my hope for when the game actually comes out. I think it is going to be a very successful next installment to the Diablo series, because it stepped outside of the box, but in the right places, you know? Like, it still feels like you're playing Diablo, but it literally feels like they just made it better.
I feel like they listen to their hardcore fans, because there's a lot of people out there that are like strictly only play this game all day, every day. And those are not us. we are kind of like the first time players that have experience with Diablo 3, but only 28% of it, and then wanted to play a free beta when it came out. So all of our opinions are based on our knowledge of other games and very little of Diablo as a culture, I would say.
We don't really know much about, I guess, the fandom behind the game or how this game is impacting them. But I really feel like, I don't know if it has redefined the genre of anything, but I certainly feel like they have done a good job, and I hope that it continues to feel like they did a good job in later game.
Definitely. And I think we would have different feelings when the real actual full release of the game comes out. But just based on the beta alone and the amount of time we were able to play it for just a weekend, it could also say a lot as a company and as a game to make us feel these things, because we're giving so much praise to a beta of a game that isn't released yet. And I feel like if it has so many of these really cool things about it and can make new players feel this way, like us, then I feel like it's done its job of wanting past hardcore players who love the genre, love the culture, and have been following since day one, but also introducing a new game for new players to love as well. I feel like finding that balance is what this game is going to do, but also elevate it to the point where fans have been wanting a new game that is going to feel polished, because that's a problem at this day and age where games are released that don't feel as polished as this beta was.
Addressing that, I feel like it's very much because of just games are being released, announced, and given release dates, way too far in advance, when inevitably things don't go as planned in the couple years that they gave themselves, and they need to
delay and delay and delay.
Either delay and delay, making people more and more frustrated, or just speed it to the end and release it and it feels either bloated or shrunk or just wrong and missing pieces. And I really, it didn't feel that way when we played the beta. It felt nice.
Yeah, I agree. So at this point in the episode, this is the segment where we have to score it. And for those who don't understand the scoring system on this podcast and show, we have a specific list of 1 through 10 of different ratings that this show is specifically offering. So things like IGN, where they give different ratings out of 10, those are going to be different compared to this show. This show is offering our own thoughts and opinions, so we have our own rating system. Each number, 1 through 10, has a different word attached to it, like bad or legendary. And number 1 is hysterically terrible, so is it really that bad if it's funny and makes it good?
Have we played a game like that? There's one that I swear that we had to have played.
Maybe that'll be another episode. Trying to find a 1 out of 10. We have our own rating system, so you're not going to find this anywhere else, which means it's connected to us personally and based on our thoughts and opinions, and we made it up, basically. So, and how it works is that each person on the show gets their own rating out of 10. I add those scores together and divide based on the number of people on the show to get an average score out of 10. Winter, do you have any thoughts or opinions on what you would rate just the beta of Diablo 4?
I would probably put the beta at a 7, which is labeled as uncommon. The description there is worthy of recommendation, but not everyone's cup of tea. And I say that I feel like because if we went through and played this game and it just kind of felt like a Diablo 4 game, like a decent Diablo 4 game, I would have probably rated it a 6, which we have as common, because it wouldn't have tried to go in new directions in any way. But because it, in this very limited, narrow introductory experience I have with it, it seems to do a very good job of stepping outside the box in nice areas. So I'll up it a little bit to uncommon, because it is certainly something that I would recommend if people are looking for games and enjoy things like the Souls games and or Dark Fantasy and or Diablo, and maybe they just haven't played it yet. I definitely would say just play it. You may not like it. And if you don't, you're wrong, but play it.
No, I have to definitely agree with you. As soon as you said 7, I was shaking my head up and down. So that was also my rating for it, a 7, an uncommon. I would definitely recommend it, but it is also not everybody's cup of tea. I think I have to agree with the fact that not everybody is gonna like this type of game. Because you and I have memories playing with Diablo 3, and I have other personal memories of playing it with my dad back when I was little. That's how I sort of found this game, was because of my dad, because he played the original games. Which I probably should have said at the beginning of the episode, but whatever. Now you know, listeners who listen to the very end.
That's your first experience playing Diablo.
Yeah. Play it. If you've heard about it and you see how the uprising is on Twitter or other social medias about this new upcoming game, it's definitely something to try. And I would have to agree. I would also rate just the beta a 7 out of 10. Maybe we'll come back and talk about the full game once it's released. So that leaves this episode with Diablo 4 beta at a 7 out of 10. And if you made it this far into the show, thank you so much for listening to Bladed Game Chats, and thank you, Winter, for hosting with me.
Thank you for having me.
Please go follow them down in the description, and tune in next time where we point our blade to the next video game and find out what they mean to you. Bye!